Good morning. Good morning. This is the Ben Checkin In podcast. My name is Binyam. Today is July the 16th, 2021. I see my friends coming in already here on the Instagram live stream. Hello, friends there on TikTok. Good to see you coming in as well. Hello, how are you? And on the YouTube live stream. Again, this is the Ben Checkin In podcast. Today is episode 11. This is the Ben Checkin In podcast, and we are considering the question, what good habits do you have? Which good habits would you like to adopt? So that's the theme for today. I'm really excited. Good morning, everyone coming in. Nice to see you all coming in. Listen, friends, I do this podcast for 3 key reasons, and I'm so glad to have you join. 1, I do them for myself. And then I also want you guys to watch how I do it and consider the questions for yourself to inspire and encourage you, especially at the beginning of your day. So 3 reasons I do this podcast. 1 is to grow an awareness of myself. I want to grow an awareness of Vinium. I want to grow an awareness of how I think, how I believe, how I behave. Secondly, I do this podcast to maximize my happiness. I want to experience more happiness in life, you know? It's a short life we live. We should definitely seek as much happiness as we can get in the midst of all the other fantastic emotions. And thirdly, I do this to learn how to be kind to myself. When I ask these questions, it's so that I can teach myself how to treat my mind, my body, the way I think about myself in a more kind fashion. And this is something that we don't do very often, but that's why I do what I do. That's why I do what I do on the Ben Checkin In podcast. Again, episode 11. And I would love to hear your questions. Again, the question today is, what good habits do you have? And which good habits would you like to adopt? I'm going to spend some time analyzing the question and thinking, what are the merits of this question? And then I'm going to answer it for my own self. I would love to hear your suggestions as well while you're answering this together. Share your thoughts on emotional intelligence. I would love to on my podcast. And so that you'll have to come to my website and sign up for the actual live stream to be able to hear some of my thoughts there. But I'm so glad to have you guys join in today. Again, my name is Binyam. I'm a gynecologist. You can check out some of my work on my website at binyamasters.com. I would love to be able to partner with you in your happiness as well. I do have a special resource free on my website, which I put together my best thoughts on how to experience happiness. If you look at binyamasters.com/happiness, you'll be able to find that resource downloaded. It's not for the faint of heart. Let me say, I have some very hard-hitting ingredients in there, but they are worthwhile committing yourself to experience this level of happiness that I continually experience on an ongoing basis. And I would love to have you experience that as well. But let us jump into our question this morning. Again, the question is, what good habits do you have? And which good habits would you like to adopt? I appreciate this question for a variety of reasons. I'm looking at 3 key elements here. 1, the good habits. We're not talking about bad habits. Why are we focusing on good habits? Because when you start practicing good habits consistently over time, what tends to happen is you start to be able to forming patterns. Good habits form good patterns, and good patterns enable you to get somewhere significant that you're aiming for by way of goals. And that's an amazing thing. Good habits don't happen by mistake, do they, guys? Good habits do not happen by mistake. In fact, consider something with me. Consider how, like, when you were born and as you're growing up, your parents had to correct you often for bad habits, right? So if you had siblings and you beat them up when you got frustrated, you were corrected for that because that's not an appropriate way to go forward. You needed to form good habits of patience, sharing, these elements that are necessary for life in community. So good habits, I mean, I wish I could say that they were natural for us, but they're not, are they? Good habits are those things that we have to commit ourselves to and work hard at. And it takes time, doesn't it? Think about the good habits that you're doing in your own life. These are not easily acquired. These are things that you had to apply yourself and work hard at seeing them developing into patterns. So these good habits are, in some sense, they're expensive by the amount of energy and time you have to commit in working them. Cool pocket protector, thank you. These are a gift from a friend, and I really enjoy being able to use them because I carry pens all the time. But good habits, my goodness, we are on the lookout for how we can acquire more good habits. But sometimes I wonder if we fall into that mode of thinking, saying that's a good habit I'd like to have, but we almost wish it instead of working hard at it. Right? We almost wants to. We almost wanted to take the easy track. And unfortunately, there is no easy track when it comes to forming good habits. So I like that we are trying to think about the good habits that we already have and the ones we want to acquire. So the ones we have is, secondly, a good way of reflecting on some of the things that we've had to work hard at. When a runner runs a race, they want to see results. They want to see the results. So usually running against the clock or against their opponents, they want to have shorter time spans in their race to show that they're growing in their ability to go run faster. And secondly, they also want to see a difference between the starting line and what happens in between to get to the end point, and that's a really important part. Think of those who are working out in the gym. They work out, they have goals, they've got good habits that they need to form. And so they try to have good habits in the way that they're lifting and exercising their body. If they form bad habits, they're going to harm their body. So they want to work at good habits that are going to enable them to grow the muscles that they want to grow. And so there's a specific way that progresses forward, right? Consider even in business. Good habits that are formed do not come by accident. You have to think really carefully and say, if I'm able to do this, if I'm able to wake up early and consistently do this, for example, this podcast, I want to do this on a consistent basis. I want to do this consistently for my own benefit and for yours as well. And so that's why I want to make this a part of my regular routine. And so this is one of my good habits. Even asking these questions is a fantastic habit. It's an awesome habit that I'm encouraging and inviting you guys to join me on, because this is what I believe is going to help us grow to that next level, grow to the next level of being a better version of ourselves by asking these questions and growing an awareness of ourselves. It's a good habit to show kindness to ourselves, because so many of us do not do that. Some of us speak so poorly to ourselves. And thirdly, it's a fantastic habit to be able to maximize our happiness. So, for those of you coming in and saying hello, how are you all? Good to see you. Thank you for joining in. I'm just going to give hand waves whenever I see you guys saying hello in the chat, just to acknowledge your presence and my gratitude for you being here. So we've talked about how good habits are really difficult. You have to work hard at acquiring good habits. It's not an easy walking right in and saying, "Hey, I'd like to buy this good habit." They are things that we have to practice consistently over time and work hard at to be able to see evidence in ourselves. Secondly, good habits are one of those things that even as we work hard at acquiring them, like it's one of those things that takes a lot out of us, right? And thirdly, I like how the question is formed today, and that is one, good habits that we already have currently causes us to reflect on the hard work we've already invested and saying, yes, we're at a certain point because we've invested hard work. And it's wonderful to remember, because when we remember, we are grateful. And when we're grateful, we don't take things for granted. We don't feel entitled. We start savoring those experiences. But even as we reflect on what we've acquired by way of past habits that are formed for us that are really amazing, we also want to look forward to the future. And we want to do that because we want to continue growing. We want to continue growing to be amazing specimens of human beings. We want to see how we can continue to strive and grow in our life. And so we have the forward-looking question, which says, which good habits would you like to adopt? So important. I love the reflection backwards, because when we reflect backwards, we are thankful. We are grateful for what we're experiencing there as we remember. When we remember, it's easier to get to gratitude. When we're in a gratitude phase, we get to happiness a lot faster. And that is something that we can experience as a good habit consistently over time. But also, we're looking forward to the future. We're looking forward to the future by way of how can we continue to grow as individuals? How can we continue to maximize the version of ourselves that we want to experience, not only for ourselves, but also to share with the world around us? So important. So I'm so glad you're here for this question today. I would love to hear your comment in the chat as we go along with reference to what good habits do you have? What good habits would you like to adopt? So let me go first. So here are some good habits that I have. And even as I think of these good habits, I want to express gratitude for the way I'm able to um, reflect on their existence in me currently, because I really value growth. I really value growing to be a better version of myself. One of my most important good habits that I have right now is speaking the truth. Speaking the truth. That's one I value because for a very long time in my experience in my life, I was not, well, I wasn't a forthright and honest person, especially in the areas that matter. That was something that I was lacking gravely. And I felt that discord as I grew up, that kind of grinding of gears internally as I presented myself to the world, but I never felt safe enough to present the real Biniam. And so I tried to give a version of Biniam in a codependent fashion that I thought other people would be okay with. And that, does that happen? It was I mean, I did that over decades. And when I finally made that decision, friends, when I finally made that decision to be truthful, it was at a high cost. Holy crap. I'm trying not to cry even now as I remember that. When I made that decision to be truthful, it was at a high cost whereby there was a lot of hurt. There was a lot of pain that I inflicted on others who thought they'd gotten the real Biniam and they realized, oh man, this is not the Biniam that we had anticipated we were getting. So that was one of my significant good habits that I needed to start forming was rigorous commitment to forthright honesty and transparency, even though it may have hurt others along the way. And so that was really, really challenging for me to extend myself that way and say, listen, I don't want to give you a version of Biniam that you think you like and that I think you like. Because I mean, man, I can do that really well. And I did really well at doing that. But I'd rather give you a version of Biniam that is a real deal. And that entails that I share how Biniam really thinks, how Biniam really believes, how Biniam really wants to communicate. And so in this current season, I'm so thankful. I'm really thankful that I've gone through the hard process of learning how to speak honestly in my life with all those around me. So as I engage in new relationships and friendships, one of my commitments is how can I be honest to those that I'm interacting with? But that first of all begins with how can I be honest to myself? How can I speak to myself in such a way where I'm like, okay, I'm not fooling myself. How can I look at myself in the mirror and say, Biniam, is what you are conveying really who you truly are? And so it's been a while. It's been a while, decades actually. But one of the good habits that I value highly is my ability to speak the truth. And I so, so value that. Another good habit that I have that I really value is the patience that I extend in listening to a person and really trying to listen to what they're saying so that I understand their intentions. I am super concerned when when I engage with people about their intentions. Now, they may do things, they may believe things, they may act on things that I may disagree with, but at the very heart of it, I want to hear their intentions for why they did it. I want to hear their intentions so that I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's one really good habit that I value tremendously. I want to see what that looks like in my personal life. I'm totally listening to you as you guys are coming. I think I'm listening. I'm seeing you coming in and typing in the chat. So I'm glad to have you. Let me know your thoughts even as I'm answering this question. But even in my ability to listen carefully, uh, wrapped up in that is how do I understand this person by listening to what they're saying, by asking some key significant questions for clarification. How can I ask some questions so that I'm giving a benefit of the doubts to this individual? That is so important for me because one of the things I do not want to do is I do not want to write someone off unnecessarily. I want to ensure that I'm being fair and judicious in the way I'm interacting with someone. So part of that is, how do I listen to what this person is really is saying? What are my intentions? My intentions are to share with you my happiness, my joy, my convictions by way of how you too can also experience what I experience. And so that's why I'm glad to have you here and joining in, because I want to encourage and inspire you, even as I encourage and inspire myself with these reflections. And that's what my intention is here. So, um, along those lines, my commitment to listening to a person, to ensuring that I'm hearing from their perspective first, I'm able to respond to their communication to me in a way that they agree, saying, "Yep, you've understood what I'm saying." That I value tremendously, because that's an important element for me. Yes, and then thirdly, another really important good habits that I think I've formed is that of working really hard. I think I am working hard at everything that I commit myself to. My siblings have often commented to me saying, "Binyam, you are able to, in a very short span of time, be able to bring tremendous value to all the work that you do, in a way that you rise to the top and you bring excellence in whatever you're doing." And so, along those lines, I would say my ability to work hard has been something that has been commendable. It's served my employers, my previous employers, really well, because I bring my A game to the job. I'm always on point. I try to like even increase the worth of the company that I'm working for. And even now, as I'm working for myself, I value the hard work dynamic, because it enables me to accomplish some goals along the way. So I really value this trait here. It's a very fantastic habit, a good habit to work hard, especially because sometimes it's not about looking at your watch and saying, "Okay, I can clock out now because I'm done my job." It's more along the lines for me of, a good habit is, how can I make sure the job gets done to the extent that I need to see it done, to bring value to those I'm trying to serve? That's a really important component for me. So, yes, I think that's really, really important. Staying calm and breathing, says Sam. Being mindful and always present. I love and appreciate those ones there, Sam. That's really amazing insights. Being mindful and always, oh my goodness, that is such an important one. That's almost like similar to mine when I was saying, focus in, right? Focus in on when someone's communicating to you. Hearing from their perspective is really important. Staying calm and breathing, my goodness, it's really important. I'm seeing some of the comments there that are trying to pressure, hey, give me something in 30 seconds. And I don't feel the inclination or need to have to listen to that kind of constraint, saying, "Hey, you're on my schedule and go." No, I don't feel comfortable, nor the necessity to. That's another good habit is, I have my own mind to be able to do what I think needs to get done. I'm able to commit myself in a way that I feel is my purpose and goal. So sometimes when I hear and feel others trying to bring pressure, I'm like, no, no thanks. I don't need that. And I'm totally okay being able to establish my own zone of, no, this is what I need, and here's how I'm going to communicate to myself. So another good habit is, I'm on my own schedule instead of someone else's. I don't feel the need to impress or try to like do something for someone else because they're saying, "Hey, right now, go. Do this," kind of thing. And I'm like, "No, I don't need to do that." I value that. I think that's a really good habit, to be able to have my own mind and my own convictions. Sending you tons of positive energy. Take that, says Peace Blindness. Thank you so much for that. I haven't had a job since COVID started, and I'm really having a hard time getting one because of my mental health. That's a tough one, and focusing on mental health is a really important one. My dear friend, come onto my website, look at my series of my membership tiers, and see if there's in some way we can partner where I can be of some service and encourage and inspire you. I would love to be able to do that. Yes. Um, and I'm just listening to what the other comments are saying along the way. Now, let me shift to the second part of the question. The second part of the question. So the first one we just had answered are, what are some good habits that you have? And I've shared some of mine. I'd love to hear yours as well. Thank you for those of you who are sharing yours. It's my pleasure, man. By all means, I'd love to partner with you. Do your best not to use your mental health as an excuse, however. Use it as a positive gift. Which good habits would you like to adopt? Good habits that you want to adopt. Now, here's us shifting from reflection by way of gratitude and these things that I've mentioned. I am super thankful for, super thankful. And I want to encourage you guys, even as you're doing this, to reflect by way of gratitude. Because when you're grateful, you're remembering to take account for how far you've come. And that's an amazing gift to be able to give yourself when you're like, hey, I may be in a place where I'm just stumbling my way forward right now. But even when we look backwards and saying, man, I've come a long way. And this is an amazing experience to be able to say, hey, how can I continue to grow in my forward progression? In my forward progression, a really big insight that may help and serve you guys, and I hope it does as much as it does me, is when I remember where I've come from, I'm usually inspired to say, let me keep on going forward. And that's what I want to do now with this next one here. And the second part is, which good habits would you like to adopt? So this is where you're looking forward, and not in a sense of saying, "Oh man, I suck at this. I'm not good at this," but more so a way of saying, "Here's some areas that I would like to continue to see growth in, and here's how you speak to yourself in a very intentional way." So here is how I want to experience growth in my own life. One of the areas that I know I do really well is I do really well by way of hard work, like I said before, and I'm really thankful for my hard work abilities. But it's also really important to have a really good balance of hard work and also balance. Balance is a really elusive thing. For me, what balance looks like is yes, I can work hard, but I don't overdo the hard work. I can work hard and commit myself to working hard, and yet even as I work hard, that I also know when's the time to stop and say, all right, I'm going to take a break now and I'm going to go do something else. That's a really important component of what I'm presenting in my area of challenge. I'm learning how to balance continually because I've lived a lifetime of working super hard, go, 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 always like exceeding expectations. Really appreciate that. But I also need to show myself kindness by balance. And what does that look like for me? What does it look like for me to go and work really hard in the day, but then to come home and take time off? The last few days have been a really busy time here in my city because we have this huge event going on the Calgary Stampede. And as I have committed myself to long hours of work, I just work, and then I come home and I sleep, and I wake up and do it again. That's what I'm doing again today. There's those seasons when you have to like kind of push a little bit more than usual. But what does it look like for me to also take time out to sit down and do something that I enjoy, like watching movies, maybe? I love watching movies, but I haven't done that for a long time. Or maybe something different whereby I'm able to go for a hike. I love going for hikes. Something that's going to replenish you, that kind of balance that says work and play have a good balance. This is privileged access because some don't have that option. They have to keep on working just because they need to make ends meet. And I get that too. But if you can bring balance, what are some elements that you can incorporate into your life whereby you're saying, hey, this is a good extension of myself? Balance is one of those areas that I want to grow in. Another one would be also how to be able to say no. As one who is codependent, um, I would say, as one who's codependent, I would say it's a difficult thing for me and so many like me to say no to individuals in our lives. Why? Because we're wired to try over and over to please others, to try and impress. And sometimes it's at our own cost. We try and say yes to so many things out there. And I like a couple of things I learned from a good friend of mine here. This person said, when we practice saying no, people believe our yes a lot more. When we practice saying no, when we get to say yes, people believe that a lot more, right? And when we say no, it's helpful for me. Practicing to say no more judiciously. When I'm being proposed with an option, a dynamic that could be in my benefit, that is one of those things that I want to practice growing in is how do I say no more intentionally as a way of practice, as a good habit, so that I'm able to, first of all, check in with myself and say, is this something that really reflects what I need or not, And so that's another area that I want to grow in by way of good habits. And then finally, hmm, a good habit that I need to work on is, what does it look like for me to get the appropriate rest and sleep? How can I prioritize like my sleep schedule? Sleep is an important habit for many of us who are workaholics. For some, it's actually a challenge because you're like, I like sleeping so much. I just want to fall asleep and sleep in and sleep the majority of the day without being productive. That is not my challenge. My challenge towards a good habit would be, how can I incorporate sleep and give it the value it needs in my life? And that's an important element too. So these are some of the areas by way of good habits that I want to grow in personally as I reflect on my life, where I'm at. What are yours? What are some of those good habits that you want to grow in as you look forward into your future? What are some areas that you want to practice kindness to yourself and saying, here's the next better version of myself that I want to grow into? And to do that, here's some good habits I need to incorporate. But before you get to that, what are some of those things in your life that you are reflecting on that you have been able to do by way of good habits? Maybe it is some of my weaknesses. Maybe you say no really well because you know how to touch base with yourself so well. Maybe it is that you are a really kind person. That's a really good habit to have in the way that you interact and engage your world around you. So these are some of the things that I would like to have you consider, even in your own context, reflecting backwards and saying, I'm grateful for these good habits that I currently see evidence in my life. And here are some good habits that I don't quite acquire, haven't quite acquired yet, but I do want to see evidenced. And what would it take for you to start growing in those? My good habit, says Honey, is Hanan, is my good habit is never giving up on helping ungrateful people. It's a tough one. I would say, with reference to that, even as I consider it, yeah, I do want to help them, but I also want to know where I'm sowing well. I'm sowing well for the right reasons, right? Because sometimes we can keep giving, but if it's not appreciated, maybe I'd want to check in another corner. Friends, as you are reflecting on today's question, what are some good habits you currently have, and which habits would you like to adopt? Consider why you're doing it. Consider why you're doing it, because the whole theme of this podcast is how to grow in awareness of yourself, how to grow in familiarity with what makes you you, how to be able to see that growth even as you're going through those stages, because sometimes it's not easy growing, is it? Second, it's to maximize your happiness. I am so serious about experiencing happiness. I am so serious about experiencing happiness because it's a fantastic emotion to have, and it makes life a lot more joyful. It's tough when we go through the other emotions that make us more reflective or sad, or those are important, but also happiness is one of those that I say I want to maximize that as much as I can by going through the other ones and processing them too. And thirdly, I do this because I want to learn to be kind to myself, and I want you also to practice that same kindness to yourself. That's why I do this podcast. That's why I want to encourage you to join me on this walk. And together, I want us to grow, not only in our friendship, but also in our encouragement of each other. So, on my website, which I'd love to have you check, BenjaminAssis.com, I have a specific set of tiers on my membership that gives you more access to me, more access by way of live streams where I'm interacting with your questions. On this one here, it's more me talking to you and encouraging you to also talk back to me. But that one is where I read your comments and I'm able to see what you're saying. And I'm able to engage and share with you my ideas. I want to give you more of myself. So check out my tiers on my of membership on my website, BenjaminAssis.com. Do check out also my resource, my free resource for happiness. It's 3 key ingredients that I share with you of how I experience this zone of happiness on an ongoing basis. And I would love to have you experience that as well. And so I do read the comments on here. I just interact with the ones that are pertaining to the question and that are helpful for the conversation. But on the live stream on the website, through the membership tiers, you've got full access and my full attention then. So that's where I'd like to have you guys join me and be a part of my world that way. This has been the Checking In podcast, episode number 11. We were answering the question, what are good habits that you have today? Which good habits would you like to adopt? And I hope that this episode has served you well. I want to encourage you guys as you go into your Friday. This is the beginning of the weekend here. to be careful out there. I want to encourage you, even as you're going through, to consider these questions that you need. These questions that you have join me in answering. I would love for you to share with me some of the ways that this podcast is also serving you. If it's helpful, what are the ways we can make it a lot more interactive? I would love to hear that. But yes, but I would say, as I say goodbye to you, that you are so worthwhile. You're worthwhile. I hope you know that. You're worthwhile investing in. You're worthwhile receiving love. You're worthwhile experiencing this kind of happiness. And I hope that you will partner with me that way. So do check out my website. But until I see you again on the next Been Checking In podcast, I want to say thank you for spending some time with me today and interacting with some of the questions. I love messages in my inbox, so do feel free to send those to me as well, and see if there's some way that we can partner together. I'm going to say bye first to my TikTok friends. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for being part of this. Muchly appreciate you guys. I will see you soon. Bye for now. My Instagram friends, hello. Thank you for joining in as well today. Enjoy the recording. I'm going to post that up on my reel, but I hope that you have a fantastic Friday as well. I will touch base with you on the next round of the Been Checking In podcast. Bye for now. And of course, my YouTubers, thank you for being here. Have a great weekend as well. Love you all in Dubai and all the rest of the world as you're sharing some of the comments. Thank you for encouraging me by your presence here. And I hope it served you well. I look forward to our time again together. Much love, guys. Bye. And of course, we are now going to finish off with our friends here on the